neutrally
Welcome to you
drawn this
all.
rather than draw it around people?
Oh, that's terrific. I've just been told there are no speakers. Well, of course there are. So we return to the full agenda, and that relieves me of the obligation of determining just how long each speaker has to speak. That's a good thing. The roll call is accomplished in the sense that Marsha Croninger is in Italy, and she declined every effort on all of our parts to go along with her, just to have a complete change in venue. And Maury Jerkowitz is here, I'm told.
Yeah, we walked in together.
But he probably will be here in a moment. We will take a couple of items out of order: presentation by Community College League and redistricting partners. We're going to learn.
Yeah, Dr. Hesland, Paul Mitchell will be coming back, as we discussed, to present, three options that we are going to consider. And I have not seen them. We're seeing them for the first time. And I also forwarded the response I got to some the questions that were asked about the redistricting process, and I forwarded that to the board on that. So, Paul, all yours.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Elaine Riotica with the Community College League of California. Hi. I just wanted to go ahead and introduce Paul. Before you, you'll find the CVRA analysis, along with a copy of the maps that Paul will be going over in his presentation.
Good to be back here. I wish I could spend more time here. I drive in and I drive out, and it's gorgeous. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go through again real quickly some of the basics. Maybe some of the people in the audience weren't here last time, and then I'm going to go through what we do in the CVRA analysis and what we found, and then go through some potential options. Now, in front of you, you do have a full CVRA analysis. This is a great thing to set on your nightstand and read when you need to go to bed. It can be pretty dense and it's pretty technical, but the maps themselves and the presentation will walk through kind of a summary of it all. So, as we discussed last time, redistricting is the process every 10 years of agencies, whether it's a state with its legislature or a water district or a school board or community college district, adjusting its boundaries for elections so that ideally all of the boundaries encompass equal numbers of people, so that elections are fair and this principle of one person, one vote. A CVRA analysis is a little bit different. When you have a system that, in the state's view, is an at-large system, meaning that it's anything but one district elects one person, and each of the districts have their own special one representative. If it's anything outside of that, then it's considered an at-large system. So the system here is considered at-large under state law. A CVRA analysis goes through a racially polarized voting and some other issues to try to determine the vulnerability a board would have to a lawsuit. With an at-large system like we have in Santa Barbara, the things we'll look at will be concentrations of minority subgroups, then also racially polarized voting, and to answer the big question, does a transition to districts really make a difference in terms of the potential voting power of the ethnic groups? In terms of this district and its populations of ethnic groups, you can see, as we understand, the cities. And then this is the darker brown, the higher percentage of Latinos. And I think the most important portion of the district to look at while we go through this analysis is that central part of Santa Barbara. Racially polarized voting is analyzed a few different ways. The three ways that we like to analyze it is first by overlaying election results to those ethnic densities to see visually if there's some kind of correlation. Now that is something that helps us, but that's not something the Supreme Court sees as a real defining of racially polarized voting. What the Supreme Court used is two different statistical methods that we used as well, one called HPA analysis and the other being regression analysis. So we don't just look at school board elections or trustee elections. We look at statewide elections, we look at ballot measures. We also look just at the base starting point for the district in terms of its participation among Latinos because they become the operative ethnic group in this district. And as you'll see, Latinos are 32% of the population, but they only end up being about 10% of voter turnout. That is something that's systemic, that might not be addressed by redistricting, but it's something that could point to Latinos not feeling as empowered by the election systems, not just at the trustee board, but also other elections. The first element we're going to use for this is to go through, like I said, a visual look at voting patterns. This is an example. You remember when we first looked, I think this has a laser. When we first looked, there was this dense Latino population here, and this is an example of Prop 187 no votes. You can see the 187 no votes were strongest in this Latino population and in Isla Vista. That's the Latino core there. Yes on 227. The yes votes.
Well, it's been a while since we considered these propositions.
Mhm.
It might be good to say what those propositions were.
Okay. So 187 was the ballot measure that banned services to non-residents, to non-citizens. 227 was basically banning English language instruction or bilingual instruction in schools. So 227 yes vote was most concentrated in the areas where there are not Latinos. You can see the no vote effectively here within the Latino area, and again, the no vote would be really high in Isla Vista. And then this next one is looking at the recall election, Schwarzenegger versus Bustamante in the recall. And you can see there's, again, a very strong in the Latino population area, you see a very strong vote for Bustamante, and again, here in Isla Vista, correlating largely with this Latino population here. Now, the second method, you start to dive into weird statistical stuff. An HPA analysis is where I take the entirety of the database of every vote cast by everyone in the entire district. And I go census block by census block, and I hunt down census blocks that are 90% white. And I create a new database just of those census blocks that are 90% white, sometimes a few hundred. Then I go to census blocks that are 90% Latino, and I create another database just of 90% Latino. And then able to compare election results from within those census blocks alone to determine how Latinos voted and how whites voted, and compare the two. Now, in some areas, you'll find that Latinos, whites, Asians all vote kind of in sync. In other areas, you'll see that Latinos, whites, Asians, African Americans vote in very different ways, and the divergence of their votes is the sign of racially polarized voting. In this district and in the analysis, there's a number of different races, but these are a couple examples. 227, Latinos, interestingly enough, they voted no on 227, but only by a little bit. The noteworthy part is that whites voted for it overwhelmingly. So this gap between Latino support and white support, while Latinos weren't, 70-30 against it, there's still a big divergence in terms of their vote patterns. And as you can see, the white vote pattern was much more similar to the district-wide vote pattern. In another instance, this is the lieutenant governor's race in 2006. Latinos voted for Figueroa by a small margin. They voted for her over Garamendi at a margin that was much higher than the statewide margin. Whites, in this instance, voted for Garamendi overwhelmingly, and the white vote was reflected in the district-wide vote. So in both these instances, you see this gap between those two different databases that we built. The second type of analysis we do is the regression analysis. This allows you to come up with a mathematical formula that can help you understand voting patterns for each group. It also shows a nice visual image. This is Proposition 209. And in Proposition 209, which banned affirmative action, you can see the Latino vote. The more Latino the precinct got as it went left to right, the more Latino the precinct got, the lower vote for Prop 209. The red line reflects the more white a precinct got. The more white a precinct got, the vote for 209 increased. And each of these provide formulas that you can actually run if a precinct was 100% white or 50% white, what would be the outcome of that election? This is Garamendi versus Figueroa. Again, you see a strong difference in terms of the outcomes and the rate of change based on all white or all Latino precincts. Now, it's definitely interesting to be able to look at the divergence of election patterns for Latinos, whites, and in some areas, Asians and African Americans. But what really matters in a CVRA analysis is, does creating districts have the potential to reinforce or strengthen the Latino voting power? As an example, I did a redistricting in Elk Grove. Elk Grove has about the same percentage Latinos that we have here. It also has a fairly high African American population, a fairly high Asian population. But no matter how you draw the lines in Elk Grove, you cannot create a district that has a very strong Asian, African American, or Latino voting power because the populations were so absolutely diffused throughout the whole city. There was not pocketing of different ethnic subgroups in a way that you could draw districts and increase their voting power. So when we draw districts, there are some fundamental principles we use. We don't just draw the craziest serpentine districts we can think of. We draw districts to be relatively equal size, which means 5% up or down. In our district here, we have some very large differences in terms of size because the district hasn't done redistricting in so long. We went over this in more detail last time, but essentially, districts 1 and 2 are way under population, and District 3 and 4 are way over population. The second thing we want in redistricting is to make sure all districts are contiguous. You can't have a district that kind of appears in one area, then kind of disappears and starts up again somewhere else. Now, interestingly, you do have a city that does that. The city of Santa Barbara is not contiguous. So theoretically, we couldn't create, even if the population was right, a Santa Barbara only district because we can't draw a district that goes off into the ocean and then reappears. But they've conveniently done that with the city of Santa Barbara. The third thing we want to do is maintain communities of interest. Now, some of this is Voting Rights Act communities of interest, and some of this is more, actual like communities of students in the area, or communities with seniors, or communities with, in Los Angeles, there's a number of different communities, the gay and lesbian community, the Scientologists, whatever, there's all kinds of different communities of interest. The fourth thing we look at is following city-county lines. As much as possible, those provide a guide for us to ensure that when we're drawing lines, we're keeping these communities together. When we look at the cities in the district, this provides a nice little guide for us to think about how are we going to construct districts of the necessary size. As you can see, Santa Barbara is the largest city and incorporates a population of more than 3 trustees. Goleta is almost perfect. You could make a district just out of that one city based on its size, on its raw population. This, of course, is the highways. And oftentimes you'll use the highways as another way of drawing a line. You'll say above the freeway, below the freeway kind of thing becomes a demarcation for a district that makes sense. Keeping districts compact is an important criteria. Now, when we're doing redistricting in Yuba Community College, those districts aren't compact in terms of small, but they can be compact in terms of shape, trying to do less serpentine, long, crazy districts and more squares and circles. And the last one is preserving voter choices. As much as possible in redistricting, you try to reduce the turnover or the harm to the system, and you try to maintain the incumbents as much as possible. Now, as we went forward, we'd said we were going to come up with 3 suggestions. We ended up coming up with 4. These 4 are all very different, in fact. The first option I'll go through preserves the existing structure of the board, the 1, 1, 3, and 2 trustee members. Now, that would not be consistent with the California Voting Rights Act, but it is going to be presented here to see what that would look like. The second one preserves as much in terms of city lines as possible, but goes to 7 individual seats, where each trustee is elected from one district. The third creates the strongest Latino district we can create. Now, we cannot create a majority-minority district within the community college district. We got as high as 47% Latino in one draw that created just a wacky connection of areas that don't necessarily, it didn't really make a compact district. It didn't follow our redistricting criteria. So I think the highest we got in a district that follows our redistricting criteria was in the 43, 42 area. The fourth version is a version that was requested and I think is mentioned in the email correspondence. And it doesn't follow perfectly, but it follows in terms of trying to follow the principles of the question that was asked. So the first plan that I'll go through, the biggest change is the shift of District 2. It does create no influence Latino seats. So it doesn't conform to CVRA and it doesn't do much to provide greater opportunity for Latinos. It does get in terms of what we want to see in terms of population deviation for each of the districts. As you can see, the number I'm looking for is anything above 25, 26% to be a Latino influence seat. That's based on a state Supreme Court ruling in a prior CVRA case where they said a district of 25.6% Latino was a Latino influence seat. And this is what it would look like. Now, one of the problems that I addressed when we first met was that this district, the way that the current districts are drawn, you have 2 seats here. And both seats were half as large as they had to be. So in order to create this one seat, you do end up folding together those 2 seats into one. And this is a pairing of incumbents that is, as we believe, given the redistricting, the rules for redistricting, unavoidable. And it exists in each of our plans. In terms of the rest of the trustees, each of these trustee areas allow for the incumbents to stay in place, and then there's one new area where there would be a new trustee elected. And this just flips through each of the maps, and you have the printouts in front of you. Now, the first option that follows CVRA converts to 7 districts, uses city boundaries, creates one Latino influence district, and again, only that one district has the paired incumbents. As you can see, the deviations here are within reason. Plus or minus 5% is considered safe harbor. This Latino district, F. Now, I want to note, I went from the numbered districts to lettered districts. If and when you transition to a plan like this, you're going to want to sit down and figure out how you're going to number it in order that the people who are up for election next year get a number that's associated with next year's election. And the people that are up in 2 years after that so if they're even or odd is going to be an issue, and we'll deal with that later. So until then, we'll use letters. But this District F has a 30% Latino population. And this is what it looks like. Again, District G in this plan, it doesn't vary from plan to plan very much. This does create 3 seats that use population from Santa Barbara, technically 4 seats that use population from Santa Barbara because of this, the extension over there. It does not unify Goleta, which was possible, and I think in one of the plans we might have done that. At least in earlier drafts we were doing that. It does preserve each of the incumbents with that one exception. And the new seat would be this District A. This is the seat that wouldn't have an existing incumbent. And as you can see, sometimes you'll see this repeated, we'll try to hug the freeway or something like that in order to create the boundary. Obviously, we can't do it perfectly because we're trying to reach population goals. But as much as possible, when we do have something we can lean on in terms of a city boundary or a freeway, we'll use it. The second option creates a 7-member districts. This creates a Latino district that's the strongest influence district at 42.5% Latino. We'll call it 43% Latino. Again, population deviation is within range, and this district right here is 43% Latino. And as you can see, that district that's 43% Latino, it tightly hugs that strong Latino population that we saw in the earlier slides. It tightly hugs the area that voted for Bustamante, that voted no on 209, no on 227. So the idea is that that district would have the greatest opportunity to elect a Latino.
Is that District D?
District D.
Okay.
And in this plan, you can see the different treatment over here. Whereas in the earlier plan, these seats had gone up and down a little bit. Now you have Goleta being one district in of itself, or almost entirely within itself, and we can double check that. But still you have the same kind of general shape. And it's District A. District B. Now in this slide, Goleta is this mint green. And we might see, it doesn't look like there's, it looks like there might be like a tiny bit of Goleta like right there, that mint green there. But other than that, it looks like Goleta's staying whole. This is the Latino influence seat. Now that doesn't guarantee a Latino is going to get elected there, but under state law, you're trying to create districts in which the Latino population can maximize its voting influence. Now, option 3 creates 7 districts. This used some groupings that were suggested by the board, tried to follow them in principle, although we couldn't follow them exactly. It does create a Latino influence seat, but not at the same high level as the other plans. And population deviation is a little bit more than the other plans. I think in the other plans you'd see maybe 1 that was 4%. Here you have 3 that are 4% deviation. It does create the 1 Latino influence seat, and this time it's lettered F. Actually, that's wrong. The letter's wrong on that. That's lettered E on this plan. So that would be the Latino influence seat there. And again, you can see that this district here with Goleta is split, like right in half, right along the freeway. And this, like with the mint green again, is Goleta in the split. So what we have here is a number of draft plans for you to look at, provide feedback. You can provide feedback today or through your staff or through over the next few weeks if you'd like. Ultimately, what we would suggest is that you have a discussion about plans overarching in terms of maybe working with your legal counsel to determine if you can go to, if you need to go to individual districts under CVRA or if you want to maintain the existing structure. Ultimately, honing in on maybe 1 or 2 plans that are preferences, making those publicly available, allowing for public comment on those plans, and then ultimately adopting them. Adopting something in time for the next election. I think you guys are definitely ahead of the curve in some ways. You definitely have some challenges that other districts don't face. And I'm happy to help you get through the process.
Right, so this is our September board meeting. So it's the, I'm trying to think, there's a timeline I don't have in front of me at this moment, but
Can't hear him.
we meet in October, the board meets as a whole.
Jack, you want to use your microphone?
I'm sorry, yeah, sorry. Move this thing over. So Paul, in terms of the timeline for the board, does action have to be taken in November? Is that what we are aiming for?
I think aiming for November is a good target.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so the the board would need to discuss this, between now and time when we put the agenda item, and then the public has, you have to notice that the public has to provide input either between now and November, when the board takes action on which option to go with. Is that?
Yeah, I think ideally, what you want to do is you want to take your existing board rules with regards to agendizing and making sure that this
Sure.
information is available to the public, and maybe liberalize it a little bit more, maybe make a little bit larger window for this particular issue, because oftentimes it becomes something the public wants to engage in a little bit more.
Okay, I think our plan will be to put together a schedule of precisely the process that you outlined and put some dates to it. Questions, Joan?
I'm just curious, it's hard flipping through all the charts and sorting it all out. I'm just wondering, just we as a board, just start the public process, if we should just go with these three options as the first things we put on the table and get some feedback before we start working with it. And that's just for raw feedback, to get people used to thinking in different terms. I would prefer that the maps be published without identification of incumbents. I don't know, that
We're
doesn't.
absolutely able to do that, of course, yes.
Yeah, I think, if we're going to look at it as a district, it should be as neutral as possible. Does this population cohesion make sense first? And I think if the public's going to weigh in to take any sort of partisan element out of this, it would be better if it was just neutrally presented as geographic areas for people to first respond to. And then,
Yeah, those are both key board decisions, and you'll have boards that want to put out all three plans, and boards that feel like public input is best on one plan, because it allows them to not be so confused by having, 21 different maps floating around. And boards will choose either way. I've been experienced with boards that do both. And then naming districts and having the names of the trustees in the district is, again, a choice. In some cases, the trustees want to have their names in it so that they understand this is the district that Trustee Smith represents, and this is the district that Trustee Jones represents, and kind of have that way for the public to understand it. And other boards say, just take the names off, take the houses off. And we're more than happy to do either, just to meet the needs of the board.
I think our tradition that we've been at large, we've never really identified ourselves with any, it was
That
just
absolutely
pure
makes sense.
residential, but certainly not any political influence on it.
We can prepare the maps however
So
the board wishes.
basically, that would just be three things. You said there'd be 20 things for them to evaluate, but I think it would just be three
Well, I'm saying if you-
big pictures, but
We can do
without
three-
this, without the drilling down into the individual.
That's another thing. We can provide just the overviews. We can provide the overviews, by the way, both in print, and also we can put them on Google Maps, so people can see them on Google Maps as well, and that has been helpful for some boards.
Okay, other questions? Marty?
Yeah, I must have missed out on something here, but the last option is board requested option, and I just didn't get what it is we're looking for there. I know option 1 was 7 individual seats, and option 2 was a maximum minority
The
district. I
The
don't know.
third option, maybe we can come up with a different name for it. It was built, I believe, off of an email we received in terms of some questions. And in one of them, it said, "What about this?" And so
Yeah.
we tried to abide by those real rough guidelines and create a map that was an interpretation.
I think it was a misnomer. It was
Wasn't as specific.
an individual board member. I took each of the questions, I received from the board and asked for responses to each question I received. And so what must have happened is you went from the question to say it was the board member's recommendation, which wasn't. It was response to a question
Yeah, so it was.
by a board member. So it's really not, it's mislabeled as such.
Yeah.
But I guess I need to know if we're going to put it out, and I don't know if we are or not, but I need to know what makes option 3 different from option 1. I mean, I know they're drawn differently, but I don't know what criteria you used. Why did you?
And I think maybe there can be a discussion about what to name that option, or even if the board wants to ditch that option.
Yeah.
But it was simply something that was in an email, and we didn't want to come here and have somebody say, "Hey, I threw out an idea, why wasn't that reflected?"
Okay, thank you.
It'd probably be a good idea if we didn't call it the board option, because the
Well-
board doesn't know what
That's
it
what I just
is.
said, it's the first time I'm seeing it, and I'm saying it is not the board option. It was a response to a question from a board member, but it's not the board option. So my comment was to change, whatever we do, we change the label,
Yeah.
because it's not an accurate, but Paul, didn't know that, he just got a question.
Lisa?
But just a comment, I would certainly prefer that the board, as a whole, look at all of these before we release it to the public and
Yeah.
have more discussion.
Well, in a way, by bringing it here, it is already a public statement. But what I hear you saying is we're not going to embellish that. We want time to look at it first, and then
Right.
perhaps have a discussion at it at the next study session.
And it's appropriate. It's exactly right.
That would make sense.
Now, our next study session that's scheduled is October 13th. So we have this, we have the continuing education, continuation of that discussion
Yeah.
on the agenda, and we have, I'm keeping a running list, so, when we meet, we'll have to just discipline ourselves to
Well,
how much we can get through.
certainly.
Because this is going to take some time, I think, this one as well.
We may have to schedule a special study session just for this. That's a distinct possibility. Other questions? Hearing none, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Take care.
Last thing, Paul, when you've been working with other districts on this, what has been typically your role, your company's role between this presentation of the options and the time that the board says this is our preferred option, in November? Is there some involvement that your company usually has had or hasn't had?
Yeah, generally, it's at that point honing in on one plan that they want to work from as kind of a basis, providing input, and sometimes we would have boards come up with 3 or 4 things they want to see. And I would be able to communicate back to that board as to whether or not those are feasible or, help create in this example, the strong Latino influence seat or hurt that, or if it helps with population equality or hurts that. And ultimately work with the board to make sure that there's a final plan that they're happy with. So whatever that takes.
I guess another question would be, is just examples you've had with other districts, is how did they deal with the public process, the public input process?
It has varied. We have one district, very dissimilar to this district in Compton, that we had several community meetings, and we had forums, and we had people from the public come and draw their own lines, and we had this whole process. That is outside of the scope of what we've worked on here. This is more similar to the majority of districts that we've worked with that have put this on their agenda, made sure that it's public, made sure that it's on the website so people can see a plan that they're considering. In general, community colleges haven't had the same level of community pushing on these district lines that you might see with the City of Los Angeles or the Sacramento County Supervisors or other bigger political things. But ultimately, the several boards that have worked their way up to the process where they're about to or just have voted on their lines, they've done a 30-day window where the public has had access to the maps online. They've had 2 or 3 meetings where they've discussed them, and then they passed them.
They have board meetings, or do they have community-wide meetings? And do
Just
they
board meetings.
use publicity in the newspapers, or?
We've had 3 districts use publicity in the newspapers and have community meetings, but the majority of the districts, the vast majority of the districts, are just doing their regular
in-house?
agenda process.
Okay. Thank you again.
Thank you very much.
We go on to 3.1, Human Resources, Legal Affairs, in particular, certificated administrator. Oh, we don't have the certificated administrator who's to be recognized?
No.
Is that true?
I have one recognition today, that's classified longevity recognition. And at this time, I would like to invite Tom Zier, Technical Services Specialist 1, to come forward and be recognized for 25 years of service with the college, and Jim Clark. And speaking about him will be Jim Clark, Director of IT User Support Services.
Mr. President, Superintendent, and ladies and gentlemen of the board, people in the audience, I'm honored to be up here today to talk about Tom and the 25 years of service he's provided to the staff and faculty of Santa Barbara City College. Tom supports the multimedia and presentation equipment in the classrooms on the main campus, and he also coordinates and supports many of the public events that are held here on campus. And in case you're not aware of what multimedia means, it means the projection equipment, the computers in the classroom, the CART systems that we have that have sophisticated control for the projection and audio, everything that it takes to make instructional computing what it is today. We've gone leaps and bounds from the days of chalkboards and slides and things like that. And so the technology that we have today allows us to stream media off the internet and show it to an entire classroom. And that's what Tom is. Tom is a support arm for that. He's a first responder when faculty call for help with instructional technology or need a special setup. He's sort of like the classroom fireman in that when he gets a call, he hops in his yellow wagon and shoots across campus real quick and to come to the aid of faculty members in need, often climbing up on a tall ladder to get at a projector. So, you know, he just needs the red helmet and the suspenders, and we'll call it a day on that. But the faculty I've spoke with really appreciate having Tom providing that support. He understands their needs, really takes an interest in making sure they're taken care of promptly and professionally. They really value having him there. They know that they can call him, they can come by his office and say, hey, you know, I'm having this issue, whatever else, and Tom is always quick to say, no problem, I'll take care of it right away, and he always does. They seem to like him a lot, enjoy working with him, and the feedback I get about his performance in the field is universally positive, and having seen him in action, I know that's true. So, Tom, I think the college has been fortunate to have you on the IT staff, and I'm happy to congratulate you on your outstanding 25 years of service.
Members of the board and President Friedlander, I thank you for this recognition today. When I started here in 1986, there was no IT department. We didn't need one because nobody had any desktop computers. We all were working with typewriters and whiteout. And the most sophisticated piece of equipment in classrooms was slide projectors. And the only thing that was across campus was the Garvin Theater and a lot of weeds. So I'm proud and honored to have been a part of this college for 25 years and to be a little bit a part of the change that has occurred. And I will be retiring at the end of this year, in June. So I thank you all for a very nice 25 years, and thanks for this.
So I'll be presenting Tom Zier a plaque for his 25 years of service, and he gets a very nice gift certificate to the restaurant of his choice. And Tom, since I'm a vegetarian, you chose Black Angus, I think you won't have to share your steak with me. So you can invite somebody else too, but thanks for the invitation anyway. My 25 years at the college, you know, Tom's been here almost every month of those times, and we've had a lot of contact with him. And this is your retirement, it's the first hearing that, so I'm very sad to see you leave. But the institutional responsibility is to work with you. Thank you very much. So let's get Bill here.
Thank you very much.
Congratulations, Tom. Okay, we move on to hearing of citizens, and subsequent to my announcement that there were no citizens wishing to speak, we have two. Ann Sprecher will be followed by, oh, I see, Kathy McCammon requests to speak under item 5.4. So, but Ann, did you want to speak now? Where are you? There you are.
Sorry that you have to see me here again. I was hoping I wasn't speaking, but something caught my eye. I went away for a month, and you people move very quickly, so I wasn't aware of something, and I just wanted to ask you a question about it. Under, on the agenda, under 6.1, sorry, I'm having a little trouble finding here, which I believe is business, business consent items. If you look at number L, there's an approval of design services agreement, cosmetology relocation project, about almost $60,000 to KBZ Architects. When I left in July, I was under the impression, and no, I did not speak to any board members, Dr. Ariano, but I was under the impression that this had not been finalized. It's a rather major move because you're really displacing a large amount of the Wake Center with cosmetology, and it hadn't been finalized. I'm assuming now, or I'm asking you, has this been finalized? And if it hasn't, it seems a little premature to spend $60,000 on architects, because once you spent that, you really don't want to change your mind. So I don't know if we're putting the cart before the horse, or this has definitely been decided and it's a done deal.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Ann. That's a good question, and addressing that is Jack Friedlander.
Real quick, it's a feasibility study to look at options, and the options that we're looking at would have the least disruption of displacing classes that we're looking at. But it's to say what's feasible and what they'll be looking at, the options, just what I said, would have minimal impact on displacing courses, for taking classrooms away from adult ed. And that analysis will be used to, inform the board and myself of, does it make sense to do it, and what are the effects of that?
Okay.
Just to follow up, I know in facilities, when we discussed this, one of the operating issues is the lease that we currently have for cosmetology, that we may have to move quickly should something happen. And so to have certain alternatives on the table is important. We no longer have the long-term lease, nor have we chosen to enter into another long-term lease where it's presently located. So I think this is prudent planning to start looking into alternatives, so it is not a done deal.
Yeah, thank you, Trustee Livingston, because the truth of the matter is we have a year-to-year lease.
Right.
Martin, would you want to? Okay. Okay, so the expenditure of $60,000 will generate a feasibility study. And I'm assuming that we have taken some care as to make clear what particulars we're interested in. Mm-hmm. Okay.
That's accurate. And including the parameter to whatever we do have a minimal impact on our capacity to offer our continuing education program. Mm-hmm. That was part of it also.
Okay. Thank you, Ann. That's the final one and only speaker from the public until we get to item 5.1. We move on to item 1.5, minutes of the regular meeting of August 1st and August 25th, 2011, and the special meeting August 25th. We're catching up with our minutes. Do you want to do this one at a time, or do you want to take it?
I was absent from, we should do one at a time.
One at a time, okay. So is there a motion to approve the minutes of August 1st?
So move.
Okay.
Second.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Motion carried. Well,
Abstain.
one abstention, two
Maureen
abstentions.
should have.
And Maury, you abstained?
He
If I
wasn't
wasn't
there.
at it, yes, I do abstain.
Okay. All right, so that's 3 abstentions. August 25th, 2011, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Lisa moves, is there a second?
Second.
All right, Luis seconds. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay.
I'm abstaining because I wasn't there.
Abstentions, 1. Marty Bloom. And finally, we have the special meeting of August 25th, 2011. Is there a motion? Okay,
I have a correction to make in it, so I don't know
Okay.
to include it in the motion, including a correction. It's
Go ahead.
A date correction is all on the minutes for August 25th, 2011, page 4, item F, report from Board of Trustees. Joan Livingston requested that the extensive report that was provided for the April 8th study session, in fact, was the April 14th study session, and it's April 14th, 2011, and I'm hoping in the future we include the year when we identify dates, just for ease
sure.
in our written
Joan,
records.
where are you on page 4?
Page 4, report from the Board of Trustees, item F. First line, Joan Livingston
Oh, yeah.
requested an extensive report, and this was in regarding to continuing education. I've been carrying it around, so I've got it right here, and April 14th is the date that was
there objection?
intended to be presented.
Okay, no objection. So the motion would include this, this modification. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed? Yeah. Did you have another, I'm sorry, did I jump the
No,
gun?
I think there's been a mix-up.
It has been, I was trying to figure it out.
Yeah, whether, you had just mentioned this second motion is for the special meeting.
Yes.
On the, right, the special meeting is just the one-page minute.
Right.
Which I was there for. But the minutes that Joan is trying to amend.
We had already passed.
Passed.
Aha,
But they're in here
yes.
right now?
We
Why
did
are,
them,
why are they in here, and why are they up for approval?
We already
Oh,
voted on it.
I thought it was August
the
1st. I mean, I
previous-
have them in order, August 1st, special meeting, and I thought we were on 25.
Dr. Haslam took them out of order, the special meeting he did last, but.
Okay,
I say
may
we-
we revisit that, just simply for the date change?
is there
And that's
objection
primarily
to-
for ease of reference.
Is there any objection
Technicality.
to simply including this as a typo?
Right.
Okay.
No, that's fine.
So Angie, if you could do that, that would be great. And then
Now the special meeting.
the motion that was, I hope, made was to approve the minutes of the special meeting of August 25th.
Do we have a motion?
Yeah.
I think we had a
Second,
motion.
okay.
We had a second.
No, I don't think we had a second.
We don't
No
have a
second.
second yet? Oh, my
Oh, I'll
goodness.
second.
Maury Jerkowitz would like to second that motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? We are done with the minutes. Thank you for the correction. We move on to 1.6, communication. First from Dean Nevins, President of the Academic Senate. Welcome, Dean.
Hey, Jack.
I did. Okay, I'll do it.
What Jack is distributing to the board members is the reports from the subcommittees of the Academic Senate. So that at the end of every year, they give a report as to what they accomplished. And the subcommittees of the Academic Senate do a lot of the kind of ground level work that we need to do in the Senate. In other words, they look at board policy, look at policies carefully, and they bring things up to the Senate, which debates them as a whole. So their work is very important, and I'd really like to acknowledge some of the things they've done. So I'll start my report right now. So President Haslam, members of the board, and President Jack Friedlander, I'd like to give my report. And the first thing I'd like to mention is it was an interesting discussion on the redistricting, but I have to again caution you, the guy in the R-squared values. His R-squared values were way too low to draw the conclusions he was making at this presentation. 0.07 is not you can't use that to draw conclusions like he was doing. But anyway, setting that aside. So these reports you have in front of you are from each of the committees of the Academic Senate, and some of the highlights are For example, Academic Policies Committee, what they did is they revised the master teacher evaluation. So they actually made it more flexible, and if an evaluator, I don't know if you're familiar with this, the master teacher evaluation is an evaluation process that can be followed every several years with the approval of the EVP. And that allows faculty who have been teaching for a while to have kind of a streamlined evaluation process. And the original proposal for master teacher evaluation didn't allow the evaluator to sit in the classroom to actually see what was happening, and they added that. So I thought it was actually a significant addition and something that made that much more useful for faculty.
Is that optional or is that mandatory?
It's optional. That's a good question. Yeah, it's optional. And yeah, it's up to the discretion of the person who's doing the evaluation, not who's being evaluated, which I think is also a key point there. The Curriculum Advisory Committee is continuing its integration of CurricuNet. CurricuNet's our electronic system to do our curriculum paperwork online, and they're continuing to integrate that, and they're also responding to modifications that need to be implemented in CurricuNet due to changes in Title V. There are things like you need to have sample assignments. You didn't have to have that before, and so those things are being incorporated into CurricuNet, and it's also generating an avalanche of changes for that core committee. So they're working really hard on that. The Committee for Online Instruction did a lot of sharing best practices of online instruction. They had speakers of faculty talking about what they're doing in their classes and how that impacts their ability to do online instruction. The Committee on Teaching and Learning reviewed ISLOs, the institutional level student learning outcomes, and took a real hard look at that data and how it can be used effectively by the college. And also, what are some of the problems with the data and how can those be addressed? And again, these are all just highlights. There's much more detail and stuff you guys have. The Faculty Professional Development Committee plans our in-service presentations. They had a full slate of in-service presentations, and that occupied a significant fraction of their time. In faculty recognition, Kathy Malloy received the Stan Backstroud Diversity Award, which was wonderful. And also, Faculty Excellence Awards were given to Blake Barron in Biological Sciences, Cindy Bauer in Nursing, Dixie in School of Culinary Arts and Hospitality Management, Paula in PE, Steve Conti in Disabled Student Program Services, and Pam Gunther. Don't forget, this is last year's report, and Pam Gunther Mathematics. In ITC, they did a lot of reviewing of policies and also of requests for technology and computer systems. In PNR, they worked really, really hard on ranking the resource requests. That was a huge, huge amount of work, and PNR did a wonderful job with that. And sabbatical leave, there were 3 sabbaticals that were funded, but there were no new sabbaticals evaluated or reviewed. What I'm doing with the committees is I'm going to each of the committees, I've gone to most of them already, and I'm sitting down with the committees and I'm saying to them, what I'd like from you is kind of plans for this year, which are captured partially in some of these documents, but also I would like to know what kind of issues you see coming before the Senate. And I'm trying to use the committees, as the experts they are, to kind of help the Senate become more proactive in issues rather than reactive. So I'm using them as kind of the canaries in the coal mine to tell us what's coming and allow us to respond to those things appropriately.
Use another analogy.
Okay.
That's right.
Okay, we can't afford canaries, so let's think of something else.
I thought the price of fuels these days, we couldn't afford the coal.
Yeah, that's right. So in our process of trying to figure out what to do with TLU allocations, that's ongoing still. We had our large forum where we talked about our overall approach to how the college should be changed as our college shrinks. And what we've done from that is we've taken that information and created a list of specific recommendations. And that was done in an ad hoc committee, ranged between 6 to 10 people we've met over the past 3 days, and we've come together with a list of specific recommendations. That will come to the Senate to generate the preliminary final list, if you can believe that. Then we'll go to a forum where people will have their say on that. Then it goes back to the Senate, then back out to the divisions, and then back to the Senate where we'll come up with a final list where we'll then vote on it. So it's lots of opportunity. The process has been very bottom up, and I have to tell you, I've been personally very gratified by the work being done by the people associated with these ad hoc committees. They really have come up with some good stuff. So I'm really looking forward to sharing that with you guys in the future. Any questions?
You mentioned the curriculum committee, the advance on CurricuNet, where now sample assignments are going to be required in the course outline.
Yeah.
And is that retroactive? I mean, do all courses now have to be modified in order to show those sample examples?
If you are going to touch your course, then it has to be updated. So, Kathy could probably help me on that one.
Actually, Title V requires all course outlines to have a sample assignment, all the hours
So yes, so it'll impact all our classes. It's a significant change.
And under what set of circumstances, how long do we have to make these modifications?
It was supposed to be done by this year. We're not done yet.
So yeah, it's
Yeah.
supposed to have been
Okay.
completed.
Okay. Joan?
I just wanted to get some clarification during the faculty in-service in Mark Farrar's talk. He talked about the number of SLOs that are still
Right.
in need, and it sounded like it was an alarming number.
It
But
is an
I'm-
alarming number, absolutely.
What-
Those are course SLOs,
Yeah.
yes.
Where are we?
Yeah, Dean, if I may.
Oh, please.
Yeah, that's a concern. So when I work with faculty and staff on the guidelines in College Planning Council, on the guidelines for program review that just went out, which includes submitting resource requests, it's the main avenue now through program review. We said that departments that have not met their obligation in terms of this timeline for SLOs will not be, their resource rankings will not be ranked, considered at all, their requests. And also, we linked the curriculum update, course update, with program review also. Because up until now, there've been no consequences if somebody doesn't do it, other than it's putting the college at jeopardy, which is a huge consequence. So we tied it into resource requests and allocations. And I hate to have done that, but that's what we did to ensure compliance.
And has it had any effect?
Well, I don't know.
that's measurable at this
It
point?
went out last week, the guidelines. And so the deadline is November 4th for submitting your program view resource requests and updated program views. And so anytime during that our ranking process, if departments haven't completed their SLOs and CSLOs, and then whatever ranking that might have been assigned it gets ignored at that point to get everybody used to it. And I really believe that, and we're doing it because we're required to do it, but I firmly believe Mark does, and many of the faculty are using it, and staff and student services side, that given that it can be a very valuable tool if you use it correctly. And so I'm hoping that's what will happen now. And Mark Farrar and staff are doing a great job of outreaching to departments and individuals to give them assistance, and that will continue.
And was there an external date the SLAs had to be in for some criteria?
Well, according to accreditation, we're supposed to have it done this year.
Like December 31?
Yeah.
or-
And so that's what if we get it done this calendar year, that'd be, we'll be ahead of just about every college, I think. And in terms of reporting, because different colleges are doing it different ways, and there's ways we can do it that are much less work. We can be in compliance, but there's no meaning at all. And I'd just rather do it right and has value for student learning as opposed to paper exercise.
I certainly agree, and
but
I
you-
know
but you-
we
but you-
started out with it that way. I mean, it did seem like, I was really pleased that it sounded like it was embraced almost with enthusiasm, that
Yeah.
it was a way of refreshing and rethinking.
I think the challenge, Trustee Livingston, and you hit on the issue, is there's a lot of enthusiasm for it. People help develop our processes, but then when you roll it out to all the full-time and adjunct instructors, that's a huge effort. And then, so how do you differentiate that from another task on top of everything else they're being asked to do?
I mean, like reading all of this.
Well, yeah, it's just everything. Just all our lives are so impacted. And so, and where does this fit into, how they do business with their classes and conduct the teaching and learning? So we're continuing looking at, Mark and I and others are asking our counterparts how they're doing it, and nobody's really figured out an easy answer. They're all struggling with this. And two, we're looking at, possibly, clicker technology and others that, to try to make it easier for faculty to provide, feedback to students on how they're mastering the outcomes in rubrics and using the rubrics as a learning tool that is formative in helping students learn and master, as opposed to just the end of the year, end of the semester summative document, which at that point, you can, it doesn't have as much value as what SLOs can have. So that's the challenge, but it's a big challenge. And people are looking to each other. I think we'll be the leaders again if we can figure this out, because in this state, nobody else has. What other states have done is they've had an assessment day. They just cancel classes that day, and everybody takes an assessment test.
Okay.
But I can go on, but that's the answer to your question.
We need to move on. Did you want to
One quick
conclude?
response to your question about the enthusiasm of the faculty. The initial part of SLOs involved people sitting around in departments talking about, what are you trying to teach? What's the essence of what you're trying to teach? And that kind of conversation faculty love to have. And so there was great enthusiasm for that. The rest of the stuff involves a little more reporting, a little more grinding out statistics and stuff, and there's not so much enthusiasm for that.
Good answer.
Appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Report by Associated Students. JJ?
President Haslam, members of the board, and Acting Superintendent President Dr. Jack Friedlander. Good afternoon. It is my honor once again to present the progress of our Student Senate here at Santa Barbara City College throughout the course of these past 5 weeks. We have taken on numerous projects this semester, and I'm proud to present the successes we have had to date. The Student Senate started off by participating in the Day of Remembrance for the 10th anniversary of 9/11 at the Santa Barbara Sunken Garden. Then, on September 17th, student senators participated in the National Day of Caring. I was thrilled that the Student Senate was joined by so many other SBCC teachers, administrators, staff, and students, and I was ecstatic to hear that SBCC had the highest number of participants at this event. It is instances like these that reaffirm the love that I have for our participatory community here in Santa Barbara. That evening, members of the Student Senate also joined me to help with a Wellabration fundraiser for a village in Kenya. This successful fundraiser enabled the village to begin the process of building a water well that will be instrumental in providing fresh water to a specific village in Kenya. Campus-wise, our SBCC delegate, Senator Sonia Sotani, has been actively participating within our region's student governance, which is also known as Region 6. Region 6 is comprised of Allen Hancock, Antelope Valley, College of the Canyons, Cuesta, Moore Park, Oxnard, Santa Barbara, Taft, and Ventura. SBCC holds 2 officer positions within Region 6, Senator Ola Smith, who serves as treasurer, and Senator Soltani, who serves as secretary. I would also like to note that Region 6 and the SSCCC have unanimously endorsed Rescue Education California. Rescue Education California is also known as Prop 1481. Prop 1481 advocates for a California crude oil extraction tax. Revenues received will be directed towards higher education. Advocating efforts have procured several hundred signed petitions by SBCC students and community members. The Student Senate is also working on hosting a debate on campus where Peter Matthews, the lead proponent and author of the proposition, will debate the merits of Prop 1481 with oil company representatives. Peter Matthews and SBCC have been in contact and are working on the logistics for hosting this debate. Our Student Senate body this year is stronger than ever. Currently, we have 16 senators with 2 Senate positions vacant. Per our bylaws, we allow 18 senators total. The Student Senate continues to see an increase in governance this year, as we have 12 pending student applications out. Lastly, our Student Senate wants to acknowledge Superintendent President Jack Friedlander, Acting Vice President President Marilyn Spaventa, the science, technology, engineering, and math faculty, academic counselors, and everyone else who worked on these grants that we were recently awarded with. This is wonderful news, and our students are proud that administrative, faculty, and staff are working diligently on grants of this nature that provide additional educational opportunities during these times of fiscal uncertainty. I would like to wrap this up by saying that we are looking forward to working with the Board of Trustees, and I appreciate your continued support of the Student Senate. Do you have any questions?
Questions? Thank you, JJ. That's an excellent report.
Thank you.
We move on to Liz Auchincloss, report from classified employees.
President Haslam, members of the board, Acting Superintendent President Dr. Freelander. Our consultation group met a couple weeks ago, and we talked about the budget. And we talked about the budget and the budget. It was very quiet in the room. Those spreadsheets are very complicated for people that haven't heard, even for people that hear it every day. But it's very complicated. So we're looking forward to a budget form that we've been told will be simplifying. I think that will help for everybody to understand what we're facing, to see it in simplified numbers. Also, at our next meeting next week, Acting President Freelander is going to come to our meeting. So we'll have a discussion with him about our role ongoing. So I thank him for being willing to come to our meeting.
I hope I'm in a position when I leave it to thank you for inviting me.
On another side, with cooperation between the district and CSEA and with one of the unit managers brought forward a proposal. She had an opening, and so what we're trying as an experiment until the end of the school year is we're trying to merge two positions together, two categorical positions, the care position and the CalWorks position. We had an opening in the care, and the CalWorks person is going to move into care, and also she knows CalWorks. So since they overlap somewhat in the students they serve, we're going to try and see if it will work out for it to be a merged position. Right now, there is a retaining one of the hourlies to help out during the experimental period, and if it works, it may work, but not completely. So she's doing an analysis to see if it will work with one person, with 1.5 people, with 2 people, but with different positions than they were. And it's been a very cooperative experience. The employee was willing to try it out, because that's a person that's going to have the most impact on. So it's just an experiment to see if things like this can work. So I just want to let you know, and I'll be reporting back to you probably the end of the school year, actually the end of the semester, to see how it worked and if the employee is still around, able to handle it all. But Marcia is right, is a supervisor with Ben Partizer Dean, who also supported this, and so we're hoping that this will work out in one way or another. So we'll wait and see. But I think it's good that we were able to work cooperatively together to try to do something like this, because we all see the numbers of, Joe Sullivan brings the numbers to CPC all the time about the $2.5 million cut in the operations. So this is our first attempt to try to see, even though it's categorical funding, but it does show how we can work together to try to solve some of these problems. So I want to acknowledge all the people involved that are willing to try this out, see how it works. Any questions?
Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Jack, you're next.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out how to approach this. There's so many exciting things happening, and respect the board members' time. So I'm going to be brief, but
I'm amazed you're still awake.
Yeah. Well, what happened was the first thing was, before I get there, is on Tuesday, September 13th, we had a celebration and reception on the West Campus in front of the Eli Lauria Library, and everything about it was just the perfect morning to do it. The weather was beautiful. It was extremely well organized, and I have to thank Joan Galvan and Karen Safai. They worked with me in planning this event, but they carried it off. They pulled it off, and it went like clockwork. And the events like that, I never take them for granted. They just don't happen. I mean, it happened, and in fact, nobody thought about the event itself is a compliment to the people who planned it. Because, you want to remember the experience and not the logistics. And so I want to thank, again, just Joan and Karen for everything they did. But I think it was a wonderful celebration and reception, and it got picked up very well in the media, which is good. Speaking of that, then I was invited to participate in a White House-sponsored series called Champions of Change, which was yesterday. And that was yesterday afternoon. In the morning, I spent about 2.5 hours with representatives. Some were presidents, some were representing the president for one reason or another, from the other 9 finalists for the Aspen Institute Award. And that was worth the whole trip, because I have several pages of notes that I learned from them of best practices. And when I was telling them about what we're doing, they were taking notes. So we all developed this great relationship in just 2.5 hours. And it's a network that one of the goals of this competition is to form that network. And this is a great first start. They also said that they would like each of the colleges to come back either at the invitation of the White House, either on December 5th or 12th, depending on the Biden schedule and whoever else they can get to attend this event, to again recognize all 10 finalists, and that at that event they'll announce who wins the $700,000 first prize, and the 3 runners-up who get $100,000 each. And I have to tell you, schools are so different from one another that they can have a very hard choice, because it's comparing apples and oranges and peaches and pears. We're just different. Everything from Miami-Dade, which is 120,000 students they serve, a year, to a small tribal college with 600 students, and everything in between. And I learned about the criteria they used in selecting us, and it was very interesting. And some of the data they're actually analyzing that is actually very helpful to us. First is number of degrees per 100 full-time students, number of associate degrees. And it's using cohort data, longitudinal data. So these are students entered college 7 years ago, 5 years ago, and track them over time. Then the second measure was number of full-time students per 100 that transferred to a 4-year institution. And some recent data we just had to give them, and we gave them just the names of the cohort. They did all the matches, and they did all the matches. These weren't anything we did. Of the students who transferred, how many got their baccalaureate degree in 3 years, or less? And I was really impressed with our data that we had a contract especially just to give that cohort, that the last year of the tracking, we had this huge jump, which shows that our Partnership for Student Success and other things we're doing is probably having a difference. You can't make that conclusion, but you can say what changed. And that was some factors that we changed in the environment, going forward. And that was, again, the board should feel very good because a number of years ago, that was the directive, increase your rates. And those initiatives came out of that request to come back with a plan to do so. The other area they're really focused on is job placement rates and earnings. And again, they're using national and state data and data they're compiling to get these data available, recognizing that different states provide different kind of data for each of those measures. And so that's their challenge, to figure out how to make it more of a level playing field when we all differ so much in terms of what the state provides, our policies, our procedures to do that. So then the other thing they look at very closely is the impact and the outcomes for underrepresented populations. And that's one of the reasons why we're among the top 10, how well we're doing. But that's a huge area of focus. But they're really honing in on that labor market data and job placement, short-term and long-term. Because this whole initiative is driven by Obama's initiative that we're going to out-educate, out-innovate, and out-build other countries in the world. Because everybody's just totally fixated right now on getting that unemployment rate down. And to have a country where the last year's data, not even looking at this past, this year, having 15.1% of your population below the poverty level, what kind of country is that? And so there's a sense of zeal and mission that I have, and it's being embraced by our faculty and staff, that in our little world, we can't change public policy, we can try to influence, but let's do what we can influence. And to that degree, so in the afternoon session, it was, panel was the head of President Obama's Domestic Policy Council, the Assistant Secretary for the Department of Labor, and the Assistant Secretary for Department of Education. Jill Biden was trying to get there, but she was delayed, so she wasn't able to get to this event on time. But she and Vice President Biden will definitely be at this, December function. But what we did was a stream live and video, and this is kind of an interesting observation. When I met with the college finalists in the morning, everybody was sharing. We followed the panel discussions. We answered questions. But after, the first question was just, what is, who are you? And talk about one partnership you're interested in. So the first president just gave, answered the question. I went second. I answered the question. Then after that, each representative used it as their elevator speech. And each person got longer and longer to talk about their colleges. So I said, okay, now I understand how this game's been played. They're playing to the local, their colleges and media. But as so I participated, and I felt that, I got more than my share, but I didn't dominate by any means, nor could I have ever done that discussion. But then it became clear that really what was the outcome of these meetings was that there's legislation being considered right now by Congress that's going to influence the federal budget for next year, which is October 1st. So there's a sense of urgency on getting advice and support for what was on the table, or any last-minute changes they should make that they felt would be more sensitive to the needs of community colleges, which they look at as central partner in out educating, out innovating, and actually, if you outbuild, who's going to help build? It's going to be our graduates. So they saw the critical role of community colleges, which is terrific. And after the event, and a little bit during, I had the opportunity to talk to the assistant secretaries and some of their staff about more specific advice I'd have for them. But I was speaking for myself at that point, and I just said that what they need to do is create policies so employers would have incentives to make things here, service things here, and innovate here. And that part of those incentives is community colleges can play a huge role in providing the trained workforce to help them hire the employees they need if they create businesses here or grow businesses here. And then we talked about some of the bureaucracy when you get grants from these different federal agencies. They actually get in the way of the grants. And I was surprised, one of the labor grants that they were touting, asking Congress again for reauthorization of $1.5 billion. They weren't aware of the problems that all of us have. So I brought up one issue, then the other college presidents all chimed in and took it beyond anything I did. So if nothing else, that's what we accomplished. She wasn't even aware of what these grants were doing to take money away from the intended purpose of the grant itself. So I felt good about the contacts I made. Also, the $1 million prize, this is going back to my morning session, I got to meet the agencies, people from the agencies that are actually funding it. And that's Bank of America's foundation. And I don't think they'll be getting new money, in the next couple of years. What's going on? JP Morgan. And so I made a great contact with a person from JP Morgan, and she and I agreed to follow up, about Santa Barbara City College, the Luma Foundation, and the woman who is heading up that effort for community colleges, Achieving the Dream. They're about to send out the request for who wants to participate in the next round. And so I said, we didn't get a chance to participate in the last round. And she says, well, I'll make sure you get it. So we exchange cards. And she goes, you don't get an invitation from us to apply to participate. In the next 2 weeks, let me know. So I made that personal contact, and also talked a lot about our college, because she and I drove in the cab together, and I made sure I was sitting next to her in that. But it was delightful, and we have a lot to learn from that. And there's one other foundation that supported it. It's in my notes, but Joyce Foundation, which we've never, applied for, or received funding from, and I wasn't aware they funded community colleges. Now I am. So, so anyway, it was a great day. So with EC, and they'll share with their staff, and I'll talk to Dean Nevins because he and I meet regularly. Some of the ideas I learned from the other colleges that I think have some applicability to here in a network that we formed. The goal of this whole competition is that they're contracting out with professional writers to chronicle what each of the 10 schools are doing. And so, get articles out and in such a way where people will take time to read it. So they actually hired one of the people as a journalist who can write, in that fashion. And then they plan to use that to disseminate and identify other good practices and really build from what the 10 schools are doing. And that's really what, this is a one-time deal, but that's the follow-up on it. So that was my experience. Because of missed flights, missed airline delays, actually wasn't me. I had to reschedule my whole flight. And so by the time I got to my hotel room, it was 2 a.m. Washington time. And then on the way home, by the time I got home, it was like after 11 last night, our time, which is 2 a.m. But so tonight, I'll sleep well in doing that. But I'll tell you, it was great to represent this college because to get to hear who we're competing against and to know that, we're right up there. I just wish I could have, other people from the college could have been there to watch and listen. Because, I always felt great about this college, but they even made me feel better. But I'll tell you, the competition is, these schools are good, and we're good. So it's going to be a tough decision on the part of the judges. And judges are 9 people from experts in different areas of these outcome measures they're looking at. And what they're going to base it on is the data they have. And they keep on asking us to provide more data. And Robert Ellis has done a terrific job of giving them, the data we're giving them is cohort data. They're doing all the matches. They're doing everything. We're just saying, here's the students that you're interested in, and they're taking it from there. But Robert, at a request, they don't give us a lot of time. And Robert has done, he's right there all the time, pulling that data together. It's based on the report that our application. It's going to be based on site visits and focusing on the outcome measures that they're most important to them, which I shared with you. Each of the 9 experts who will be analyzing this have expertise in one of those areas, including student learning outcomes. And I know the person, rep by reputation, and I know him personally but that well, who's going to, they hired to look at the SLO information. But this is really rigorous. So we'll see what happens, and we'll find out December 5th or 12th on that. So that's that report. Going through security, get into the White House buildings. I'll tell you, we got 45 minutes delayed just waiting. They just stopped, no explanation. And boy, they check like I've never seen anybody check before. And so all I can tell you is, if nothing else about me, I'm at least a good security risk. To have that. Real quickly, because I know this is taking your time, is
Can we follow up on
sure.
this thing?
Yeah,
or
please
should I
do.
wait till the end?
No, that's fine. Let's do it. Okay, I'm sorry. Yeah,
Number 1, to give you credit for your Friedlander report from almost 20 years ago, where you did track income of our students or community college students getting 2-year degrees, whatever.
Right.
The infamous Friedlander report, which was a wonderful device. Have there been any other follow-ups on that? Is that ability to create that sort of material still out there?
Oh, yeah. In fact, the core measure is used by every state now.
But do we have it when they're talking about one of their main interests is employability,
So
but certainly the income? So is that now part of data gathering?
Well, what we do is the system our Chancellor's Office uses to meet federal reporting compliance for our Perkins Act is that system. Okay. And it looks at, matches leavers with, do they have a job, And if so, how much are they earning? When I was involved with that project and working with the Economic Development Department, I tried really hard to get them to ask employers to put one more data element, and they just wouldn't do it. Where other states have it, this is a disadvantage. Real quickly, what that data element is, the data EDD has in our state tells you somebody's working in hospitality industry, but doesn't tell you what job. So somebody can be doing accountant, or they can be a nurse. They can be working in their cafeteria. They're in the hospitality industry because that's their employer, Cottage Systems, but you don't know what job they're doing. And the data element that other states have added that we don't have gets you down to that level. And so that's a disadvantage for us in that comparison data. And it's funny, in revisiting this whole thing, I'm going to talk to the Chancellor's office about trying to get that data element added, but it's very sensitive because nobody wants to add any burden to employers in all the paperwork they have. And so it's that sensitivity to paperwork, but that's the answer to the question.
Thank you. I'm glad to know it was incorporated later. And the other one is you mentioned that a lot of this activity was in support of some federal legislation that.
Well, the purpose. No, let me.
Is there an identification of what that legislation or is it formulating legislation?
Trustee, let me separate out that. I was maybe confusing in my trying to synthesize. The Champions of Change meeting, which was totally independent of, was to talk about what they can learn from these leaders in community colleges. There's 15 of us, 9 or 10 from 10 schools plus others they invited to take part. So the policymakers from the various departments I mentioned could listen and see what they can do from a legislative, budgetary request to help support what they felt was best practices. So that's what I meant by that comment. So there's no
just
specific.
A resource rather than
a piece of legislation.
Okay.
But then I went on to say that the Department of Labor had a specific budgetary request in to renew $1.5 billion of grants to target people unemployed, long-term unemployed, and people who are underserved, the populations that are most difficult to find employment, given our jobs today, to help provide them with that training. And so the specific input was that piece of legislation as part of the budget submittal that President Obama has made. And I don't know the budget, I don't know how they got, tied into his overall budget request on that. And so she said, gee, I'm going to have to go, make modifications or take a fresh look at that because, that's how Congress is dealing with that as we speak on that. So that's the clarification I want to give on that.
Okay. Are there other questions of Jack?
I got two other items that are important.
Okay.
I'm going to skip a lot of the accomplishments and just jump to two items I do need to cover today. One is the other great news we got was, and that's just an email I sent out to you, on Monday afternoon, we were contacted by Congresswoman Capps' office that we were awarded a little over $4 million grant to increase the number of students in general, but Hispanic low-income students in particular, who enter and complete majors in science, engineering, mathematics, and technology, this for STEM, and then to have them continue to a four-year institution and successfully transfer in one of those majors. So that was, fantastic news. That plus the grant we got, a year and a half ago for, $3 million to support our Express Success and to support our Express to Transfer programs was terrific news. Then we partnered with CSU Channel Islands on a separate grant they wrote for the same funding source, and they let us know they were funded also. So we're receiving some additional funds and a lot of extra support for the same population that we're targeting from CSU Channel Islands. And in working with them on that part of the grant population, grant, I think it's going to be wonderful what we're doing. And speaking of CSU Channel Islands, I met with the same group we met with about 6 years ago, when we started the program of offering bachelor's degrees on this campus. Now we have business. They were very happy with their business BA and MBA program. So now they're saying, Jack, what do you want now? That was our agreement. We test this out. So I said psychology, and we already talked to our psychology department. They've since talked to their psychology, dean and department. And so there's a meeting scheduled with Dean Sharper, Stan Bernstein, who's the chair of our psych, and their counterparts, to have a bachelor's degree in business offered on this campus. And make matters even better, in case of business and now psych, they're going to give a guaranteed articulation agreement that goes right into the major field, as opposed to just to acceptance to CSU, Channel Islands, which is so generous for our students who participate in this program. Then, Alice and I suggested at that meeting, what about linking with Dean and Acting VP, EVP Spaventa, what about looking at our high school students who commit to achieving, these requirements? Can they get guaranteed admission, contract? And they said, yes, we'd love to do that. So I need to talk to the high schools now. So it just keeps on getting better. And I just need to just go to 2 items I need to cover with you today that are very important. One is I'm pleased to announce that I was informed today that the Instructors Association voted to ratify the contract, with the district, and I'll be placing that on the October agenda, for formal approval. But a provision of that contract for, the contribution to health benefits will be retroactive, and we'll do that before we have formal board approval of contract, because I don't want to make them wait until end of October for that, if that's okay with you. But that's something that we reviewed with the board, and there's no surprises in that contract. So I'm pleased that's ended and successfully on that. The second item on that is, and again, I want to thank our negotiating team, Joe, Sue, Bruce Barsek worked with us, and the IA negotiating team. It's negotiations, but is always respectful, trying to reach mutual satisfactory decisions, and it was long and drawn out, but it was, everybody's, friends. It was no, and it was how people should work together, even in a negotiation environment. So again, it doesn't happen is because the people I mentioned, made it happen, and I was happy to be part of the process on that. The last thing which I need to call to your attention is I got a proposal from the foundation requesting that they can move forward right away on naming opportunities for the new Garvin Theater, because they want to launch a fundraiser, raising drive right away, including seat names and different aspects of the Garvin itself. And so, and I said, normally we take it to a study committee, and I wouldn't put it on the board agenda. Then I went back and reviewed the board policy on naming, which is, and I included it in your folder today, which is BP 6620. And real quickly, there's actually a process that we need to respect, and we will. That the second paragraph, the board shall have the final responsibility for naming building, facilities, et cetera. All recommendations for naming shall be submitted to the board by the superintendent president, following an appropriate nomination review process. No commitment for naming shall be made to a donor or honoree prior to this process. But here's the key thing that we have to do fairly soon if we're going to allow the foundation to, get the go-ahead. And that is, the president shall convene, and it's referring to, my role at this point, shall convene an ad hoc committee composed of appropriate representatives of the foundation, the SBCC Board of Trustees, faculty, and administrative staff to review the proposed name before submission to the full Board of Trustees, by the president. In this case, we have no individual, but it's saying, are you comfortable with what's being requested for these amounts associated with these different aspects of the facility? In meeting with Vanessa Patterson this morning, she goes, Jack, we have people we want to approach, and so we can approach them. You can't make any commitment until we follow our processes. And so you need to be careful in terms of what you commit. You can put out, proposals and with qualifiers in there. But so what I need to do now is work with Dr. Hasland, and the board. Maybe I can ask now of who would want to be on from the board on this ad hoc committee that I'd like to form right away, so we can help the foundation meet their fundraising goals. But I need to follow our policy.
How large a group are you looking?
There's no, the more people, the more challenging it is to schedule the meetings.
So
But I'd like to have at least one or two members of the board, at least one, if not two.
The idea would be for this committee to vet the names and the sums and come back to the board with a positive recommendation?
I have to, yes, and that's exactly what the process is.
Okay, I will volunteer.
Okay, good. So Dr. Hassan volunteers. Anybody else on the board like to be on this ad hoc committee? Again, everything will come back to the full board, but, okay, so I guess Peter's not hearing anybody else, and I realize. Oh, great.
Good. I was beginning to feel very
Good.
lonely.
So,
I'll keep you company.
Oh, good.
okay, good. So then, Angie, when you and I have our meeting tomorrow, we'll get this going. And then, and I'll be talking to Dean Evans and Joe, administrative staff, it says, to, round out this group so we can get moving on it. Thank you.
Okay.
So those are the two items I wanted to talk about.
Very good. I have a feeling you could talk to Dean. He's right here.
Yeah. and
Do it
Dean-
after the
actually,
meeting.
Dean and I have a meeting tomorrow, so we can
Okay.
get that wrapped tomorrow.
So we have item E, report from members of the Board of Trustees. Do we have anybody? Joan?
I need some clarification on this accreditation response. I'm not clear on what's confidential and what is not confidential, so.
Yeah, let me explain it. What I'll do first thing tomorrow morning is what I did, and I realized after I got some questions from individual board members about the very question you asked, Joan, is that what I sent to the accrediting commission and what I'll send to you tomorrow morning is I'm going to bust out the portion of the cover letter that I shared, with you prior, and the balance of it will be a separate document that's confidential, along with the exhibits.
So is the cover letter confidential?
Well, no.
Or is the report,
Well, no, what I did was,
there's a
the 29
report that starts here, is that confidential?
what I sent you, the 29-pager, combined what was a portion of what I sent out initially, to
Right,
you.
there's the cover
And,
letter.
yeah, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to separate out what the portion of the 29 pages that's confidential, in what I sent to the commission and what I sent to you tomorrow morning. And so you'll have the email, the letter draft letter I had sent you prior to this, then it'll be a separate attachment of the balance of that, which is confidential, of the text.
Which says confidential response to allegations.
Correct.
Okay.
You got it. And then the exhibits, which is confidential.
So the exhibits we don't have,
You have that. It was a separate, it was a document I sent this morning to you. You should have the exhibits 1 to 9.
did it come in by email?
Yeah.
Oh, those exhibits,
Yeah.
okay, got it.
And so
that
I
would be
I realized, and also when I was racing this morning to get everything done I had to get done, I attached the exhibits first and the letters second, and that caused some confusion. So, when I send you first thing tomorrow morning, if not even tonight when I get back, I'll probably do it tomorrow when I've had a few hours sleep, so I can make sure. I spent this morning just editing everything and just being I try to be as careful as I could. You know, I look at every word, and, you know, a document that long, I might miss something, but I got here very early this morning because I just, you know, this is important. And so I think I'll do it first thing tomorrow morning when I, you know, have both eyes opened and send it out, and that will avoid the confusion.
I guess I also want to find out, under whose name does this get sent out? And is there any board action that's taken on
No.
this? It's totally between you?
Correct.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, since you did ask for letters, I'm not in agreement with a great bulk of this document, and so I'd just like to add a follow-up minority opinion. Is that appropriate? Is there a vehicle for that? Because the letter that you are including, which I appreciate, was written before I read these follow-up documents, and I'd like to amend my letter, add additional comments. So is there any role for me to do that, or is that not something that I can even do?
I think what I'll do, because this is uncharted territory for me, is I had planned to call Dr. Bino tomorrow morning and do two things. One, tell her, you know, I'm sending this document to her right away. And two, that I'll be asking ACCJC for recommendations of an individual to do that training workshop on.
No, that's not the question. The
No.
question
I was in that same conversation I plan to have with her now, Joan. I'll ask your question to her.
Thank you.
Because I don't know the answer, and I don't want to give you an answer because I don't know. And I'll let you know what she tells me. And that's the advice I'll go on. And she has to check with somebody else, and there's a delay. I'll let you know there's a delay while she checks. But I need them to respond to that question, that answer, not me.
I think also, one of my concerns is there's, you know, I don't understand the process that you went through in compiling this document. You mentioned a few individual names, but I don't know what the range of your exploration of this was, and I think some of these names maybe need qualifications.
Well, what I did is at a board meeting when I announced, you know, anybody wanted to send me
Right.
letters, and I announced the same thing at CPC, so it was saying that, you know, what that process was, and anybody I gave them to, you know, past Tuesday, you know, a week from this, to send me it, so I have time to compile. And that's the only discussions I had with anybody. And I received 9 letters that, you know, we wove into the narrative, and that was the process. And so 9 people, including, you know, 5 members of this board, chose to respond, and that's what I did.
Okay, so that you didn't conduct external interviews?
No, I did nothing.
It's something that there's a document that supports what you included
Absolutely.
in this? Okay.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Because now, what I did do, in some instances, the letters to me for input said, you know, please fill in this or fill in that document. And so I tried to capture everything in the tone that, you know, in the essence of it. Some were very lengthy, so I tried to, you know, synthesize what they said. In case some letters I sent verbatim, such as yours, because they were short or they were, you know, there's no, you know, there were complete documents that they have. But that was what I did, which was consistent with what the process I talked about doing. So that's what I did. And but this document's for me, because it talked about individual board members, and the whole board wasn't present to know what happened or not. It would be appropriate for me to ask the board to endorse something that you know many of you don't have first-hand experience with. So the letter was directed to the superintendent president of the college, and response was requested from superintendent president, and that's what I've done, you know, in that.
But it's also not a public document, which is the
Correct.
concern, that this
Yeah.
is a voice of the college that hasn't gone through any
Right.
public exposure, nor will, and
That's right.
and it's going out under the college
Yeah, and I
name
explained-
as you as CEO.
Yeah,
So I
this
think
is-
there's
That's right.
a real
And-
concern
And I
with
explained
that.
that in my cover letter, exactly what I did, and I'll be talking to Dr. Bino tomorrow about exactly what I did, and that's what I'm doing.
Okay, and so my understanding is the initial cover letter, up until the point that you make the confidential, that is public information.
And my intent was yes, but let me, if I may, given that I'll be contacting Dr. Bino tomorrow, I just would like to ask her, I personally have no problem with it, being a public document. I'm just going to ask her if there's any reason why I wouldn't do that, but I can't think of why. So the intent was that that part of it would be a public document. That's why I need to disaggregate it from the rest of that Word document, the 29-page.
Right.
But that was.
Starting with the
But that was my intent.
Okay, and certainly my letter is public for anyone, if anyone in the media wants a copy of my letter. I had no intention of that being included as a confidential
Yeah.
letter, so if anyone
But,
wants copies
yeah.
of that.
Yeah, it's just,
Okay,
so I think that's where we are on that.
we need to, yes, please?
Are we done with that?
Yes.
Yeah, I wanted to, actually, and I'm kind of glad that Dr. Friedlander spoke about the foundation, because those are some good things that they're trying to do to raise additional funds with the naming opportunity, and just had very successful campaign. However, there is some concern in reference to the foundation, so I thought it might be good, and I know we have some tough agendas or full agendas coming up, but I think because of some of the negative impact and/or repercussions that are being felt by the foundation due to some of the actions of this board, I think we need to discuss the foundation, get an update about the foundation, what they're doing, and how they're being impacted. So I think there is a bit of urgency to talk about what's actually happening at the foundation before we lose more ground.
If I may, I had scheduled today a presentation by Vanessa on just that, and because she was meeting at the same time with her executive committee, she couldn't be here. She said, I need to have this meeting. And so she will be here for the October, giving that presentation, which I had hoped to happen today at the October meeting. The other thing that happened today at the executive committee of the foundation board is I shared the news about the $4 million grant. And so we discussed, well, how, what messages, and then, there'll be I wrote a letter to the news press to talk about, I only had 750 words, explaining just some of the three items I covered with you, including, these, wonderful grants we got. And I said the sensitivity is now people say, well, if you get all that money, what do you need the foundation to raise money for, for this? And so we discussed that today, and I don't want to take up time, but it was a very good discussion. Dr. Haslam was there because he's on the executive committee of the foundation board. It was a quick brainstorming session because Peter and I had to leave here to try to, anticipate, that, reaction. But also, I think what you just said has had a major effect on their ability to raise funds in support of our students. And they say that we have to stay out of that whole thing. It's passed. But in the end, what are we doing? We're raising money for our students, and that's what we're doing. And we shouldn't be hurting ourselves in that mission.
Exactly.
Well,
Yeah, because
what I
the grants
hear-
are one thing, but money that is being pulled back and/or threatened to be pulled back directly goes to student scholarships, and that's my concern, is that,
That's
we are
also-
impacting students directly that way, and we can't be doing that.
That's also their concern. I think your point is well taken. I'll invite Neil Kreisel and Vanessa to come to our next board meeting. In fact, I'd like to have Vanessa here, or somebody from the foundation, on a regular basis, because we need to have a closer mesh with that foundation.
Peter?
Good.
I just wanted to mention too, about a month ago, I took a walk around the whole campus with Vanessa and just was very intrigued by her and her ideas and enthusiasm. And we talked about just individually on how we could work with the foundation.
Yeah, I have to tell you, my working with Vanessa's, it's like, I leave so enthused of meetings because she just brings these creative ideas that sometimes push the boundaries, some of which I'll be bringing back to you when they're more developed, you, the board. But she's out there and she's got this marvelous enthusiasm, and you almost can't, if she asks you for something, you almost can't say no to her, which is what you want.
Well, let's see if we can't move through the rest of the agenda so that we can get home and.
So that was my brief report. I'm sorry I went along, but
I'm glad it was
That was your brief report?
I know.
You and I will talk. Okay, we're on to.
Well, Peter, I just did it, so I didn't want to make you feel bad.
You did? No, you didn't.
I'm by myself, okay?
You made me feel terrific.
Thank you.
2.2, public hearing on the initial bargaining contract proposal of Teamsters Local Union Number 186.
Mr. President, if I may briefly, this is part of the sunshining process for engaging in collective bargaining. And I want to recognize that in addition to Jason Walker, the representative from the district group, we have Dennis Shaw, contract administrator for the Teamsters, here today, in case there are any questions.
Are there questions? Okay.
We don't have to move into public hearing, do we?
It's a public hearing.
Yeah, we have
It is a
to move
public,
into
okay.
some sort of special hearing?
Yeah.
So I'll move that we move into public hearing.
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Is there objection? Hearing none, we're in a public hearing. Would anybody like to address this issue? All right. Then I think we are out of public hearing and back on the agenda.
We move closure of the public hearing?
Okay, if you feel like moving to, okay?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Ask for variance. We move to 2.3. Luis, do you want to say something about this?
No, other than, the conference is going to be held. They are, during that conference, elections are going to be held of officers of the Association of Community College Trustees, which is the national one. And I've always been a long advocate of being involved at the national level, especially in these days and times. The administration has really put the spotlight on community colleges and continues to do so. For the first time, federal administration is looking at community colleges being a significant player in helping to solve some of the economic crises that we've been going through and to develop a workforce for our country. So I think it's important for us to participate and attend, and so that is the reason why I'm interested in attending and actually voting for officers that will be leading the national organization.
Is there a motion to approve Luis as our delegate? Lisa?
Sure.
Is there a second?
Second.
Discussion? Would anybody else like to
I
participate?
just hope that, Luis, when you're back there, that you get a chance to network and explore about college presidencies, since we'll be going into a search process. That it's a good time to get some nations. We're doing a nationwide search for it. That's a good opportunity. So I hope you take advantage of that time to explore that, make some contacts, and see what's out there.
I will keep an eye out.
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Item 3, Human Resources.
Mr. President, members of the board, once in a while this happens, I don't have any edits.
Oh.
If I need, I submit this for your approval.
Motion to
approval.
approve. Ms.
I'll move approval.
Ori, and
Second.
second. And Joan seconds. Discussion of any of the consent items? Hearing none. We go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Those wishing for edits to be in the next one, say aye. Never mind, never mind.
Thank you very much.
All right. And we move on to item 4. As soon as I can find it.
Page 10.
Oh, there it is. Dr. Sharper, welcome.
Hello, Dr. Haslam, President of the Board, trustees. I'm standing in today for our acting EVP, Marilyn Spaventa, so I'm acting, but I'm real here. There's only one item today, 4.1, recommended approval of course and program modifications. At its September 12, 2001 meeting, the Curriculum Advisory Committee recommended approval of course and program modifications. Superintendent President recommends approval of the Curriculum Advisory Committee recommendations, and those program mods are found in attachment 4.1. And to just briefly list them and review them, there's a course mod that did not get on the board agenda. It was inadvertently left off, and at the March 21st meeting, the CAC approved a course mod for Italian 104, Intermediate Italian 2. And at its most recent meeting, September 12th, the Curriculum Committee approved the following course mods as listed below. Drafting 124, Earth 111H, the H stands for honors. HE 108, Health Ed 108, HE 111, and PE 200. And a program mod to the degree, the AA in Geological Sciences. And Superintendent President Friedlander recommends your approval.
It's been recommended. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll move approval.
Maureen?
Second.
And Marty. Discussion? Hearing none, we go to a vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Abstentions? Thank you very much.
Great, thank you.
Okay, we move on to item 5.1. Dr. Arellano.
Good evening, Dr. Haslam, Board of Trustees, Dr. Freelander. I'm bringing forward item 5.1, recommend approval of new courses and course modifications. And I would like to say I want to thank Kathy O'Connor, who spent a lot of time with our faculty in training, reviewing the template for the course outlines, and we did include the sample assignments in the course outlines. So we really want to thank her for providing us with that training. So I have 5.1 if there's any questions.
Okay, the 5.1 includes pages 1 and 2. Are there any questions for Dr. Arellano? Is there a motion to approve? Lisa moves.
Move approval.
That's a second, okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Thank you very much.
Okay, 5.2, recommend approval of new or modified community service courses. And we've also included the fees for each course as requested.
Okay. Is there a motion?
I have a question.
Question?
Question about the community service courses. I guess I need to know what are community service courses? What's the definition?
These, the community service courses, I'm not sure I
I
understand.
think what she's,
Versus.
yeah, I think the difference is one, community service are ones that are fee-based, self-supporting, as opposed to state-supported.
Okay, and I just noticed, I was looking through and seeing all the list of all the classes, and I guess, have these classes been submitted to the Chancellor's office and rejected, or why are they fee-based? I don't know how you got to that conclusion that these should be fee-based and others shouldn't.
Okay. If you notice on attachment 5.2, and Trustee Bloom, community service is the term used by the Chancellor's office, but we also refer to them as community education, but as Dr. Freelander said, these are our tuition or fee-based courses. If I can walk you through attachment 5.2, we have new courses that were instructor initiated, meaning the the instructor came forward with an idea for a fee-based course and worked with the appropriate director. So we have 2 new courses that were proposed by specific faculty. New courses, permanently converted state-funded courses that are not eligible for apportionment. More than likely, these are the courses now that the state has indicated anything less than 9 hours cannot be claimed for apportionment, so those were converted to fee. New courses, we have some additional courses that meet the criteria that we shared with the Board of Trustees, and these are state-funded courses that are being converted as options. We are not going to be doing the conversions for winter. We are doing the conversions for spring term.
Yeah, if I may, this is an important decision that Ophelia and I made. We felt that the faculty are going through a process of prioritizing, credit courses in terms of which ones, have the highest priority to be supported with state money, And so Ophelia and I discussed, we need to have a parallel process for non-credit. So, for example, these are just make-up numbers, but I just want to give you, if there's 100 courses that we offer that are eligible for state support, what categories would be, what are the recommendations from the faculty, to us, working with staff on, if only 50 of those 100 can be funded from state money, which 50 are they? And not specific course titles, but the categories of classes, to provide that kind of guidance on the non-credit side as the credit side. When we looked at the money we have to take out of the budget through conversion, we realized that we can achieve that in spring quarter, by having the 60 sections, and be more prudent to have this input and, faculty-led process in making better informed decisions about what gets converted and what doesn't. So there's only one course that's actually, other than the ones that that we have no choice on, that the request was to offer them as fee basis winter term. And I believe that's in Glassblow.
Right, Dr. Freelander, if I can
Sure,
add
please
some
do, yeah.
clarification. What we decided to do was reconvene the previous work group that provided us with recommendations on the criteria to convert. And this work group will include also some student participation. And Ken Harris, who facilitated the work group last time, has volunteered to facilitate this second group that will provide some ideas and recommendations for the administration to finally make the selection of those courses.
You want to follow up?
The last item on 5.2 are just existing tuition or fee courses that are just some course modifications. And that is the entire list under the community service or the tuition courses being brought forward to the board.
I just want to underscore, as I say, I've been keeping this April 14th, 2011 report. Trustee Bloom, it's titled Minimum Conditions for Claiming Apportionment Curriculum Compliance Issues, and I believe that's probably a good comprehensive place to start. However, also, I think we're all sensitive to the confusion. This starts making sense to us because we get to know it technically, why it's happening and what the course requirements are. But to the public, they can look at two courses, one of them is charged, and they sound similar, and then one isn't. And it's been an ongoing problem, and I know the website has dealt with it for a number of years, identifying it, but I think it probably is still out there. So I think we have to keep telling that story. Why is it that this one gets charged a fee, and why is this one it gives the impression that we're arbitrary about our choices, when in fact we know we've been going through a very thoughtful process, and there's nothing arbitrary about it at all, but it is part of the story that I think we'll have to keep emphasizing and using the website to do that as well. But again, I look forward to, if there's any opportunity, that we can really go in depth on the challenges that the division has been facing these last few years, trying to get this information out.
Okay. Kathy McCammon asked to speak to item 5.4.
Do we have to approve, we have to approve this, oh,
Well, I
sorry.
think we should probably have public input before we approve.
Well, 5.4 is the, this is an information item, but,
No, we're on 5.2.
Yeah.
yeah, we're on
but
5.2 now.
Course approval is
Right.
different.
Okay, okay.
That's the point I was
So
trying to
Kathy,
make.
hang on for just a minute. We'll get to you after we deal with 5.2. Sorry for jumping the gun. So we're seeking approval of this list, correct?
Correct.
Correct.
Is there a motion to approve the
So
list?
move.
So, okay, moved and seconded by Maury. All, further discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Abstentions? Okay. We move to 5.3.
5.3 is just a summary again of the fee structure in terms of how these fees are being calculated. Number one, we agreed to look at an average pay rate in calculating the fee, which is not the same as the pay rate for the faculty and teaching the courses. So the calculation provided by Fiscal Services in terms of the average hourly rate is $57.78. So we will be using this number in calculating all the fees related to the instructional salaries. And number two, we are also including the direct cost. And number three, in terms of the indirect cost, the board had consensus in moving with the 14% in terms of calculating the operational costs. So these three items are being used in calculating all of the fees.
Any questions on 5.3? Okay, thank you very much. We move to 5.4.
Yes, I'm Kathy McCammon, and I'm co-president of ACES. And I do have two procedural questions that have now come up. When we want to address a given item, can we turn in the speaker slip just before that item? And if it's one of the, say, 5.2 or 5.3, would you prefer us to speak at the beginning of the fives, or?
I can only speak as an individual. I think it makes
I mean-
perfect sense for you to speak directly to the issue when it comes up.
Okay.
You know, it's your preference, your call.
Okay. Well, I think it would be easier to get people to come for items if they knew they could turn in a speaker slip just before, say, the items.
So they didn't have to come at 4
So they don't have to come at 4.
Oh, okay. I don't have any objection. I mean, does anybody see a?
Yeah, and I mean, it's just that would probably present just a problem in terms of, should you get all the speakers lined up?
Yeah.
Whether they're speaking during the hearing of citizens and/or if they want to speak to an item, but they should be here, because the meeting might move quickly the first half.
They would have to be here before the item came up,
No,
certainly.
well, they should be here at 4 o'clock when the meeting begins, is
But-
my opinion.
Then they might miss part of a class, because classes generally end at 4. So that was what my thinking was here.
At the
Okay.
actual submission of the slip, that's what you're talking about?
The actual
Yeah.
submission of the slip.
Can that be done by proxy, or is there any online submission, maybe?
Certainly been done before
Speaker
by
slips?
proxy, yeah. I have no
Or,
objection.
I mean, at previous meetings, I know I've turned in slips at just before a specific item, so I don't know what the procedure is.
Proxy might be good, just so we have an idea of how many speakers we might have.
Well, if we could do it
for any-
online, that would be even better.
I think online, unless they do it well in advance, it's hard, because
that's
Right
too
before the
bad.
meeting, Angie's,
True.
up here getting prepared. So, but this is a board decision, but to me, to have an indication up front in the meeting of how to manage a meeting in terms of how many requests we're getting for speakers, even though it could be a later item, would make sense. But that's up to the board on that.
Yeah, well, maybe what we should do is take this under advisement and talk about it during a study session and come up with a solution. Presenting a problem is easy. Having a solution takes a little more time.
Yeah, I think there's a balancing of convenience there when we have somebody online, that an attorney that is waiting to talk during a closed session, and all of a sudden we find out in the middle of the meeting. So, yeah, I think it would be a balance of convenience. And I remember Harriet Miller saying, if it's important enough, you'll be there regardless of conflicts.
Proxy would be fine.
Yeah.
Let's just get to the item.
Let's go. But why don't you address 5.4?
Well, okay. All right, that really is why I'm here. At our recent ACES meeting, our members looked over the list, they read it, they discussed it, and they have a series of concerns with the proposed fees. And one of their big concerns, of course, is the track record of the number of classes that have already been converted and have now been canceled because they couldn't get 20 people. So they specifically asked me to find out which classes and when they will be converted to fee or community service. I understand now that there will be no decision made until spring, but they also feel that they would like to see a process where they can have some input into which classes are converted. And there are a whole list of things that have yet to be fully discussed, like are you going to take whole departments, are you going to take beginning classes? And they really feel that they have not yet had a voice, they have no way of having a voice, and so they would like to be able to address these issues and have a way to have their input heard. So that's one thing. The second item is, if there is a community service class and you need 20 people for the class to go, and that is what the fee is based on, what happens to the money of, say, if you have 30 people show up? You need 20 people to pay the fees for the instructor, etc. They want to know what happens to the additional money that potentially is collected.
Okay.
So, thank you.
Thank you.
I think, Kathy, just looking at the fact that or how we structure the fees, we're using an average fee, so I think if you're looking for penny-wise conversion, but just to know, I mean, it's explained here.
No,
it doesn't explain the answer, but it explains that we're using kind of averages for things.
No,
So
they
there might
understand
be some
that.
money left over on one, and there'd be money left less on another, because we chose to do an average. So the precision of tracking each dollar, just to be aware.
Oh, I'm sorry, I guess I wasn't clear enough.
No, I think I understood it, but I just.
No, they wanted to know if the fee amount is approximately going to be covered by 20 students, and say by some miracle you have 30 students, 40 students show up, does the additional money stay in continuing education, or does it go to the college's general fund?
I see.
Okay,
I
but with
understand
the
the question.
understanding that this average, we're not charging actually what we're paying for the professor.
We understand
Okay,
that, but
okay,
we want to
appreciate
make,
that.
they want to know if it goes to continuing education or to the college general fund.
Okay, thank you.
It's a legitimate question, and we'll find an answer for you. Anything further?
It's just an informational item. The board requested, again, the list of the courses and the type of fees to be charged, so that is just an informational item on 5.4.
Thank you for putting that together.
Thank you so much.
Good.
Okay, we move to item 6. Okay, let's see you. Business consent items, Joe Sullivan.
There we go. Business consent items, item 6.1. Do we have any questions, or should we go to approve?
Is there a motion to approve item 6.1?
So moved.
Marty Bloom moves. Lisa seconds, I think. Did you? Okay. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay. Do we want to move on to
6.2. 6.2A, that went much quicker than I thought it would, is the public hearing and adoption of the 2011-12 budget.
All right, do we, is there a need to move to go into a public hearing?
Convene as a committee of the whole, recommends convene as a committee of the whole when we come to, and these are terms of art that we probably should go over in some
Yes.
sort of definition, that sometimes we're in public hearing, sometimes we're in executive session, sometimes we're in committee of the whole.
I'm just not clear as to whether there needs to be a formal motion to that effect, or one, since it is on the...
Yes, I think we do. So
since
I
it is on
we
the-
move to become a committee of the whole.
All right.
And don't ask me to explain it
Second?
either.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, motion is made and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right, we are in the committee of the whole.
I've put together a presentation on the adopted budget.
Okay.
We could go through it. It's a short presentation, just 8 slides. I actually have copies of it if you'd like a hard copy. Are we ready? There are some extras there, but I didn't bring enough for everybody, I'm afraid. So, looking at the adopted budget, the easiest way to look at it is the comparison of the adopted budget to the 2010-11 actual. And it is still an unaudited actual. We're going through the audit process at this time for 2010-11, but we don't expect the numbers to change much at all. In looking at the assumptions made to use the budget, you can see there's a lot of numbers on this spreadsheet. You don't need to concentrate on the numbers at this point. What I'd like to emphasize, though, are okay, now I'm hearing, I wasn't in front of the microphone enough. You have under revenue, we have one-time decreases, ongoing decreases, ongoing increases. The most significant ongoing decrease, of course, is a 5.185 million workload reduction. This is what we're looking at going forward if we have the triggers pulled in December, and we have included that in our basic adopted budget. If you look under expenses budget, there are ongoing reductions. These ongoing reductions to the expense budget, it should be noted, don't actually reduce actual expenditures. These are budget reductions, and we did have our expenditures, our actual expenditures were significantly less than budget in these areas. So they are accounted for separately in this slide, and included in that is the best estimates, because as you know, the best estimates were what we used to account for what used to fall to ending balances at the end of every year. And in order to make the budget again reflect actual more closely, we use this best estimate to come much closer in our budget to what our actual expenditure was in prior years in these specific areas. If you look at the expenses actual, you can see that we have one-time reductions, ongoing reductions, one-time increases, and ongoing increases. And if you look at the next slide, this is where you can look at what those mean. Basically, what this slide shows is the impact of these items, either positive or negative, on our bottom line. The green are the ongoing revenues of increases of $598,000. Basically, we know that's the increase from adding additional international students, and there's a $139,000 increase in the lottery contributions, which basically makes up that $598,000. We know that there are ongoing expense reductions, if you go back to that first slide, of about $848,000. And there are ongoing expense increases of $2,113,000. And that's the most significant items that we have to look at in this. If you look at those, it's all these blue items. Again, we have some items which are the continuing adjuncts. We know we had to do that, ESP and readers. But if we look at this, state unemployment insurance is one of the most significant numbers. Our health and welfare for the employer contribution. We understand that through negotiations. We have fixed expense increases. These are basically our utilities and other expenses that we had to increase because they did increase and we have to pay them. So we had to account for them in the budget. Workers' comp, again, that's not really in the control of the district here. Sabbaticals we chose to reinstate 3 sabbaticals, and that's the cost of those sabbaticals. And we have CalPERS, which we can see is almost $400,000. So when you look at that 2.1 million of increases, you look at the increases in revenues and the expense reductions, we can see that we have about $667,000 in ongoing budget and ongoing increases to our actual expenditures in future years that's accounted for within this 11-12 budget. Is that pretty clear? So just looking at the revenues alone, we can see that there's a budget revenue decrease of about $5.7 million. Again, if you go to that first slide, you can see what it consists of. It's in that first column on the first slide, the revenues. They do include ongoing and one-time reductions as well as the increases. That's the net amount. If we look at expenses, we can see that we have a budget expense increases of $3,264,000. So again, that's significant in that it's above the actual expenditures for last year, not the budgeted expenditures for last year. So that's what that number comes up to be. If we look at the fact that we decreased our transfers by approximately $3.7 million, you can see where we did that. Basically, lower transfers in equipment and construction. We brought that down then to $4.8 million. If you look at the effect of that then on our ending balances, now I have in here also, we put in the adopted budget estimates for both construction and equipment, so this includes both of those also. And so if we look at the construction and equipment and general fund and the impacts of the budget on that, we can see that there's a total decrease in general fund balance of about $8.6 million. No questions yet. This is pretty good. And we have gone over this in study session.
Questions won't solve the problem. It's brutally clear.
And then the last slide here just has some of the budget risks that we have talked about in study session and in CPC and other consultative bodies that we know about. The first one is the shortfall in state revenues that we know will cause the triggers in December. There's a higher probability of that happening before because of the issue with the stock market now. And even before that, they said there's a high probability it will happen. So I think we won't be surprised that we put in our adopted budget the $5.185 million and that it comes to be that. The federal grant funding we know is going to be reduced. We don't know what the impact of that on the college yet. We will find that out as the year progresses, and we may have to make adjustments for that within our budget.
Yeah, the main area that I'm concerned about is our Perkins grant to support our career technology education programs, because that's the one that Congress has been looking at in particular. So we'll see what happens on that, but I can anticipate something will be, they'll continue to reduce that.
And the last one is that because it is a best estimate for salaries and benefits, we know that we shouldn't see that significant fall to the ending balances that we've seen in prior years. It should be a much closer estimate to what our actual expenditures are. And so we won't have the positive surprises that we've seen before from those. We do know that on the budgeted expenses, We did reduce the budgets for the 4,000s and 5,000s, but we did not reduce them down to the level that we spent in prior years. But then again, we tracked those increases, which also impact them. A lot of those increases went to benefits, but there's a significant amount that did go to the 4,000s and 5,000s. So that's what we'll have to watch for ongoing.
Okay, I just want to go back to this, how you are describing the no falling balances, so there will be no surprises, but there also will be no additions to a passive way of adding to our reserves, which is where the falling balances or end-of-year balances were a passive way of adding. So I think maybe we might want to describe that impact with a little more.
Well, it means that we are planning for those now. I mean, we can't anticipate, as you say, the passive amounts falling. So
Right, and this is a big change in college culture, which means that when we start prioritizing budgets, it's always easy to start carving out money that goes into reserves. We did it passively. We woke up and there it was. I don't want, that makes it more trivial because just simply that's the way we did it for decades. But I think as the board, when it comes to negotiations, when it comes to evaluating budgets, to be really clear, this is a major way of doing business differently. And so just simply say these are surprises or falling balances, I think is to trivialize a process that has been operational, and there's no reason it can't change or should change. But it needs to be looked at as we really have to protect that amount of money to replenish reserves, as well as not freezing our reserves, because we collected those reserves so they could be used for expenses. So changing the culture, I think we're going to have to emphasize this point over and over again, that we have to be very protective now, because there won't be any passive savings account for the college any longer.
Lisa?
Yeah, I agree. It's a different way of going about the budget, and it's going to require that the board really be active in their fiduciary responsibilities and pay attention to what reserves are going to come out of the budget. I would like to disagree with one point, and actually I think I will bring the data to the next meeting. This is not a practice that has been followed for decades at the school. And as a matter of fact, if we look at the data, which I have going back 10, 15 years, it's only really been the last 3 years where these dramatic falling down balances have come. But just to clarify, I'll just make sure that we bring that to the next fiscal meeting, a little analysis of that, so that this perception that we're changing a decades-old practice can be looked at. Thank you.
Okay. So, Jack?
Just real quick, when Leslie Griffin went to her workshop on best budgeting practices, and I sent you that document. One of the principles was, if you're drawing down on your deficit, on your end-of-year balance for the same reasons that we're doing now, which are sound to do that, at some point you need a plan to rebuild your end-of-year balances. And that's something we need to put into our budget development process going forward. What year, are we, you can't wait too long to start having to systematically rebuild to get to the reserve level that we're all comfortable with. But that means it becomes a priority in budget development, is the other side of what we're doing now. And the two have to happen hand in hand, to keep the college, ahead of, able to absorb future shocks that could happen.
Okay. I think we're at the point where do we have a motion on the floor? I can't remember.
Do we just move out of hearing and then we move to adopt?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll take that as a motion to move out of hearing. And a second, all in favor?
I'm sorry, I do have one more question. And I've asked for it, and I haven't quite gotten clear, since we added this additional expense of the CEO termination to the budget.
Yes.
And should it be identified as a one-time expense?
If you
Or
go
and
to
you think you
the-
said it was in academic salaries?
If you go to the first page, it should be under one-time expenses.
Expenses?
The presidential search and the amount of the severance agreement.
I honestly
Estimated
had a
amount.
very hard time reading the print.
Sorry, it's probably better up on the big screen.
Yeah, it's clear, it shows clear on the
Okay.
screen.
Thank you.
Okay, now we are at the point of moving out of Committee of the Whole. We have a motion, it's been seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Opposed, nay? All right. A motion to approve the budget as presented. Lisa moves. Is there a second?
I'll second.
And Maury Jerkowitz seconds. Discussion, additional, none? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay? The budget is adopted.
Thank you.
Thank you for your work, Joe, and your whole staff. I know it was a tremendous effort.
Right.
Thank you.
It's always easier increasing budgets.
6.2B is the adoption of resolution number 9, establishing the appropriation for our GAN limit. This limits the amount that we can contract without going out to bid for services.
Okay, is there a motion to approve? A motion is made. Lisa, and anybody else want a second?
One second.
Marty seconds. Discussion? Hearing none, we go to a roll call vote.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
Trustee Jerkowitz?
Aye.
Trustee Livingston?
Aye.
Trustee Macker?
Aye.
Okay, then we can move on to the adoption of resolutions number 10 and 11. These are the routine internal budget transfers and the budget revisions due to the receipt of unbudgeted revenue.
Is there a motion to approve?
Approval of adoption of both Resolution 10 and Resolution 11.
All right. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
Lisa seconds. Discussion? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay?
Oh, wait, these are resolutions.
Oh, I'm sorry. I was trying to cheat Angie out of her job.
And can we put both resolutions together?
That was the motion.
Or no? Is that okay?
Is it okay?
Yes.
We have in the past when there's a
They're in the,
association.
Okay.
Thank you.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
Trustee Jerkowitz?
Aye.
Trustee Livingston?
Aye.
Trustee Macker?
Aye.
Move on to.
and then the adoption of resolutions number 12 and 13 are for our prior year adjustments, actually, for routine internal budget transfers and for the budget revisions due to receipt of unbudgeted revenue adjustments.
Is there a motion to
I'll move
approve?
approval of 12 and 13.
Second?
Second.
Lisa seconds. Is there a discussion? Just a quick question and maybe a quick answer, I hope.
Yes.
Why are these coming now as opposed to last year?
Because we continue to get invoices, billings, and make payments after
makes sense.
that are applied to the prior year. So this is just
Thanks.
correcting that.
Okay. We have a motion before us. Call the roll.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
Trustee Jerkowitz?
Aye.
Trustee Livingston?
Aye.
Trustee Macker?
Aye.
Adoption of resolution number 14 is for the amendment of the agreement for the CSPP 1557 to provide for an authorized signature. We should have done this last month when we approved the contract, but we did not do that. So it's just to allow me to sign it legally.
Move approval.
Second.
Say again which contract we're talking about?
The contract was, it's called CS, we can go back to the one, CSPP 1557. It's the agreement. It was, I have to go back and look at it, but I believe it's for food service to provide, or I'm sorry, child development services. That's the child development
Child
services.
development services, Joe.
That's what it is.
Okay.
So basically, we've approved the contract already. We just haven't approved you being able to assign it? Is that?
Yes, they require that as
Right.
part of their agreement, so.
I imagine this discussion is going to be hotly debated. Please call the roll.
Trustee Allen?
Aye.
Trustee Bloom?
Aye.
Trustee Haslam?
Aye.
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 Okay.
And H is to approve the mileage allowance and cell phone for our acting superintendent president.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second? Discussion? Please?
There's
No?
discussion.
No,
Okay.
I am.
That's all right.
Then I think this does not call for a roll call vote. This is just a simple up and down. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. We have no item 7. The closed session has been postponed. So we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Lisa moves. Oh,
Here we go.
great. We are adjourned.
Great.